Hello and welcome to a very special episode of Life of the Mind, and it's special because I'm interviewing my co-host, Joy Amy Wigman.
Hello.
So today is Life of the Mind of a drama, and this is Life of the Mind, a Neurodivergent podcast presented by neurodivergent people. Which is what we are.
Yeah.
Yeah,
as it turns out.
So
who knew?
I know. It's weird, isn't it?
I didn't know.
No. And that's kind of what we're going to be covering today. So that you can get to know the people who are just talking at you all the time. Who are these people and what validity do they have to talk about these things? Well. So, what is your relationship with neurodivergence?
Oh, okay. So my relationship with neurodivergence is a complicated one because I only discovered that I was autistic back in June 2023, and I am 41. Which means I've spent the majority of my life not knowing I was autistic. I say the majority of my life, the whole of my life, not knowing that I was autistic, and really beating myself up about it. And because stuff likes to stack, I also have fibromyalgia and complex PTSD.
Nice.
Well, it's a good collection of acronyms and long words that are difficult to spell.
Yeah. You're never short of a story about your life.
No.
Some sort of, or fuel for creativity.
Yeah. Fibromyalgia is a really good one for Scrabble.
That would score really high.
It really would.
No, don't try and work it out.
Anyway, don't work it out right now.
Someone will be Googling that later.
Thank you. Leave it in the comments.
But yeah, how did that discovery earlier this year as we recorded, actually? It's really not that long. Bloody hell.
Yeah.
How did that change your relationship with yourself?
Oh gosh, so much. So I have spent my entire life thinking that I am fussy and that I just need to try harder, and basically wearing a million hats for different things and pretending to be somebody different at all of them. And I had like a big old happy cry because I realised I didn't have to beat myself up anymore. So if I'm walking into my bathroom on the sides of my feet because I can't bear the way that the bathroom floor feels on my bare feet, I'm no longer saying, don't be so absolutely ridiculous, that's insane. I'm now going, oh, it's okay, I'm neurodivergent. And to not have, there was definitely a bit of euphoria about knowing I didn't have to be so hard on myself. But also I am struggling with the unmasking and taking all the masks off and learning which ones are actually quite helpful to me and look after me rather than worrying about looking after other people, and which ones were detrimental. So I'm kind of going through that process at the moment.
Yeah.
It's tricky.
Yes, it is very tricky. Yes, someone who's still going through it. I think it's going to be a process for the rest of my life.
Yeah, lifelong process.
Yeah, but yeah, I can relate to that being tricky.
Yeah.
How do you? Because you're a performer.
Yeah.
And all around creative type.
Oh, thank you.
I mean, just look at me wearing. No,
look at what I'm
that's
wearing.
That's not useful for an audio format.
No, but it's helpful if you watch it on YouTube or look at the pictures.
Plug.
Because whatever episode, let's face it, it's going to be quite loud.
Yeah, that's...
If clothing can be loud.
Yeah, from what I know of you, that is true.
Yeah.
But yeah, how did that... Do you think, knowing what you know now, that your neurodivergence kind of impacted how you became a performer and whether you kind of developed your masks and being with the world?
Yeah, so I started sort of, I think the first thing I remember being in, I was about 3. And I know, right? And the thing about doing drama from a young age is you're taught how to behave. You're taught how to look like you're listening. As a child, when you're taught kind of, this is what somebody looks like when they're happy, this is what they look like when they're sad, this is an interaction between 2 adults, and I think that made me create some pretty hefty masks from a very early age. I know there's sort of this stereotype of autistic people like not being able to look you in the eye. I have the opposite thing. I've been taught that when you listen to people and when you talk to them, what you do is you look them in the eye, and I freak people out because I like really do eye contact people, and I think that sort of comes from this same kind of thing. And like you said when I interviewed you about how when you've got a script, everyone has to behave in a certain way that's been agreed on.
There's a rule book.
There's a rule book, and even like because I've got quite a heavy career in improv, and improv has rules. It has rules and pathways and methods, and as long as you are improving with people that you trust and like adhere to those pathways, that's great because I know where it's going, even if I don't know exactly what's going to come out of my mouth.
Yes. Yeah. It's still got that. Enough rules. It's not, improv is not complete chaos.
No, it's not chaos.
It's fascinating. It's fascinating. It's been fascinating for me as I've done more, dabbled in that a little bit to see, oh no, that actually does have some, I still hate it as a thing to do myself, but it does actually have more than you might think.
Yeah.
Of rules and structure.
But that performing from an early age, it does teach you to put on masks and put on hats and behave in a certain way. And you mentioned on a previous episode about gendered diagnosis, and I just like it really had not occurred to me that I might be autistic until I was sat in my therapist's office and explained all this stuff to her that I hadn't told her because it was so buried and so intrinsically who I was, but I couldn't let anybody see it. And it was like a sort of light switch when she said, I think you're autistic. And it was like it was this big ball drop of okay. And then we went through all the forms and stuff. So I have been sort of diagnosed by a mental health professional, but it's not the big fancy, like, you have to be diagnosed by the right person in order to be diagnosed as autistic.
Yeah.
Which,
strange,
it is a whole strange thing.
Yeah. Because self-discovery is so valid.
Yeah, self-discovery is completely valid.
So long to get the actual diagnosis.
And it's so hard.
So difficult.
It's so hard. And like that alone, like immediately I started unmasking from knowing that. It sort of happened naturally. But that affects your relationships because you've acted a certain way with people you've known your whole life. And suddenly they're going to be seeing this side of you that maybe they've not seen before. And that's really hard. And it puts a strain on relationships.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things I've struggled with is finding support for that initial, what do I do with my life now? How does this change?
Yeah, that paradigm shift moment.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh my God, the world has just what? And actually my boundaries are now need to be very different. I can factor things, my validity in certain areas.
Yeah. But also the people I pretend to be are part of me. So
it's all true.
How do I it's true. It's not a lie, but it's detrimental to my health. Yeah. So it's a big old mess, really.
Actually, that's a really good point. It's something that on my journey through it, something we talked about before, about because I'm further on in the process of getting used to it and everything as a thing. But that thing of all the different aspects of oneself still being you.
Yeah.
Something I've really struggled with as well. It's such and that initial period and there's such a lack of support out there for that moment. It's something that we can kind of each do for each other in so many ways, because we each been through or go through that experience, and even just saying, actually, this is really hard.
Yeah,
I'm going through grief for the childhood that could have been, and all of those things that we start to believe about ourselves, and all of that, and the actual struggle itself to actually work out where it sits, and like you're saying, strain on relationships and what that means and what that changes, and if people can't accept that at all, or if they struggle with, there's all of these. It's complex.
And I see it as a positive thing, but that doesn't mean that it's not also hard. And I think that's really important with doing things like this podcast. It was always going to be really important to me to talk about how, like, the reality, because I see a lot of positivity, which is great, but reality is important as well in order to support each other.
And adds that nuance of the actual, the individual experience as well, and that actually things do need to change, and podcasts need to be made where it's neurodivergent people talking about neurodivergent problems.
Yes. I'm really glad that this discovery has come now, because I'm a mother. I've got a 17-month-old daughter, and knowing now that I'm autistic, I'm able to put things in place that help me cope with things that would be difficult for anyone, but have an extra layer of difficulty because I get things like sensory overload, because I get the overwhelm and the meltdown, things to keep me safe, things to keep my daughter safe. I'm able to put things in place to do that, rather than just pushing myself to go, you're a mother, you should be able to do this. Now, nobody should do that to themselves, regardless of whether they are neurodivergent or not. But it's taken a lot of pressure off there, definitely.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And it's something that, if she herself ends up being neurodivergent.
Well, her mum's autistic and her dad's got ADHD, so the chances
genetic,
are
lottery is pointing in that way. But it's so important for something I believe strongly is that it's important for, if you're going to have kids and you think about it, because if you're working out whether that's part of yourself, it's like working on anything within yourself, so that when if you then are planning to have kids, and you aren't necessarily going to bring on those problems.
You're going to understand.
With them.
You're going to understand, and you're going to be
like, oh yeah, I can just.
Like, this is what I wish
happened
when I was a kid.
Yeah, you're walking into the bathroom on the side of your feet.
Yeah,
that's actually fine to do. Let's do it together.
Do you know, it's really changed my perspective of other people as well. So, like, especially in things like shops and cafes. Now, me and my husband have a thing where we love surly service. So if it's nice food but the waiter's like really rude, we love it. It's just very funny. But I'm now seeing it with this sort of neurodivergent eye. So I was served in a phone shop a couple of weeks ago by a guy who was that little pedestal they stand behind. He was sort of leaning on the pedestal and rocking on it a bit, and he never looked me in the eye, and he was a bit blunt with me. But in my head, I made this immediate like, well, what if he's neurodivergent? And just like, this is just him, that's fine. And taking away that level of like, person in the shop has to perform to me. And it made my transaction a lot easier.
Yeah, and actually it can just how you relate to other people. If you just, as that baseline, have more knowledge about it, like you're saying. Yeah. And not everybody has to do all of those performance things that we're taught.
No.
Look in the eyes. And
I got a new phone. What do I care?
And touch people and all of these things that are Because like you, I'm the same. I look at people too much in the eyes if I do it, because I'm like, oh my god, eyes are fascinating. But also it's that
There is
connection,
that.
and they're just like, oh, the too much connection. I can't tear my eyes away. The stream is burning.
Do people think I'm flirting with them because I keep looking them in the eye? Is that what it is?
It's like, also, do people not think I'm flirting with them because I'm not looking at them in the eyes?
Oh,
But there's a
no.
butterfly. There is literally a butterfly. I'm not even making it up.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Did you, through that process of discovery and that you're still going through,
Mm-hmm.
did you feel like, or are you feeling like you need to come out almost as autistic, and how much, especially as it gets more ingrained and you've validated it for yourself?
Yeah. So with the people who are close to me, I was sort of telling them in person, because I think it's important that they know that there's a reason why I'm acting differently around them, that I'm being more authentic. I'm not, changing things for any reason. I actually did a big old Facebook post once I had told the people that were closest to me, because I was not doing. I do a lot of social media, and I'm quite vocal about things to do with fibromyalgia and to do with complex PTSD, and that's part of who I am. I think it's really important to take stigma out of things by talking about them.
Yeah, I agree.
And I wasn't being able to talk about my experiences with autism because I hadn't had that conversation.
Yeah.
So I just ripped the plaster off and just did a big old thing of saying, look, you don't need to do anything about this post. I'm just explaining what I'm going through at the moment. If you're going through the same thing, great. Why don't we have a coffee and have a chat about it and moan about what's going on, and celebrate what's going on. A few people were difficult to handle because it was quite a shock for them. But I got a lot of messages from friends saying, hey, I'm going through this at the same time, who hadn't spoken to anybody about it. Or, hey, I always knew there was a reason why you were friends with lots of engineers, which I am. I sort of... Me and engineers gravitate towards each other. There's just this certain when I hear people talking passionately about something, I'm like, oh yes, and I want to hear everything they've got to say. And then if they want to listen to my weird passionate stuff as well, I'm like, you're one of us.
Yeah, and you realise that everybody around you is like, wait a minute. Yeah. I think that's probably quite a good time to wrap it up. That kind of community.
Yeah,
because
community.
actually reaching out, sharing, being open about stuff, engaging with other people, and actually all being like, we're all in this together.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very real journey, and it is unique to the individual.
Yeah.
But there are things that can be shared within it.
Yeah, things that bring us together.
There are always things that bring us together. Yeah. Okay, folks, that's it for this episode. Find us on Instagram at life.inthemind. Our other socials are linked in the bio. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment. Bye!